Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana is the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. They've just released a statement. Bishop Mpumlwana, before we get to your statement, I just want to climb on the back of that statement we've heard from the ANC's National Chairperson. He really does hold on steadfastly to the term may. As a man of the cloth, tell me, we're told biblically that one can sin with their mind, even though you don't actually do it. Is there sort of a half measure of may have sinned or come close to sin? Or just share with me your thoughts on this one.
Oh, no, that's hilarious. May have sinned. Except that sins have to be confessed. You know, sins are not about being accused of sinning more than it is about, if it's a confession, I have sinned in thought, word, and deed. That I say in my confession and seek absolution. But of course, once it becomes an accusation, an allegation against one, then that's when it gets tested in law.
And this is where you write your statement from the moral compass of somebody who is well aware of his station in life. Here we're talking about the head of state, which the report said there are many unknowns, particularly from the fact that the panel did not get, as far as it's concerned, adequate information. It felt that the response coming from the president was not necessarily accurate for it to be able to form an opinion. It felt that there were too many gaps. So from that moral compass, where should the president stand now in terms of his next step?
I lost you a moment there, but I think you were asking what the president should have done or should do. I think you would have gathered from our statement that we actually welcome the report of the special panel established by Parliament, but we see it as the first step of a process, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that we think is an important, because in the past we have been unhappy with the failure of Parliament to take these steps and hold the executive accountable. So they are doing exactly that. They set up this panel, and this panel is supposed to then lead to the next level, which is the creation of an impeachment committee, if that gets voted for, and then on and on and on. But the importance of that impeachment committee is that it allows for all the things that the panel has raised and flagged to be tested and examined much more thoroughly. Note also that there is the investigation that's going on at SARS, there is investigation that's going on with the Hawks, and all these are statutory structures whose evidence must be brought to bear on this whole process. So we're not unhappy with having this report. And I think that it should be said that Parliament is doing the right thing.
And you have said that the country must enjoy the benefits of a constitutional system, meaning that it's all got to play out the way it's supposed to from the letter of the law, the Constitution itself. But you also referred it to the church tribunal processes, the Ngobo panel. Please explain to me what that means, where no evidence is led or rebutted. And this is very important because there are those who have said that the Section 89 panel should have been granted more powers if we wanted a more satisfactory outcome from it.
It is simply an analogy, because there is that process in the church tribunal system, because those churches that use that model, where there has to be some kind of literally establish the prima facie case. Is there a possibility that something could have been done which then leads to the next level of the trial process? You don't do a trial before you have established the primary area of this is really just getting what's going on here kind of thing. And I think that in a way the Section 89 panel has done that. It says, hey, there's stuff here to look at, that it is worth having a committee to look at this and investigate properly, and it is worth charging, if you like, through an impeachment process of Parliament, which then goes deeper into the process.
Looking at the report, you also say in your statement the disappointment and anger over what confronts the nation now seems to emanate in part from the incredulity of the circumstances that are engulfing a president who's perceived in this matter to have reversed the impact of state capture. Are you saying that you expected better from President Cyril Ramaphosa, and as a consequence, he has disappointed you as a church, he has disappointed you as the SACC, and not only in the allegations, but in how this whole matter has been handled?
That part of the statement comes from, you must remember that when we prepare the statements, we gather information from our constituencies as much as possible. And what we are being told, and in fact we'll pick this up also on the talk shows, that people are saying, oh, come on, can this really happen? Why would he do that? You know, we're looking to him to achieve ABC, especially because of what we thought was an important process of reversing bring back the monies that have been stolen in state capture and so on. So that's where we all are saying is what we are reading is that the disappointment that people are expressing is based on that in part. And I think that is true if you listen to what people are saying out there. It's not necessarily an SACC disappointment, but it is a disappointment that we are speaking to as we gather from our communities.
So just finally, an extended process will undermine the moral and ethical authority of the president, the place in a state of limbo of the country, its economy, the governmental processes, many of its pressing and urgent challenges. It's also from your statement. How speedily should it be resolved? Those who were just speaking to Angelo Fick a little while ago, a political analyst, who was saying the ANC is wrong in saying to the country that we should wait until the elective Congress. So when is good enough in terms of what will be seen as speedily dealing with the matter in your point of view?
I think we should separate party political processes from state constitutional processes. I do not know why the ANC would say wait for a particular conference of theirs, because it's really irrelevant as far as the state processes are concerned. This is a parliamentary process that's taking place in the same way that SARS are doing their own investigation and the Hawks are doing theirs. None of those institutions can be told to wait for a conference of a political party. So I think that that's really a non-issue. The real issue here is now that the report has been received, it then must go before Parliament, and that's what they're doing on Tuesday, and that's the right thing to do. And take it from there and move forward. But I would say the parliamentary process must benefit from the inputs of the other state institutions that are handling the same matter, so that you don't have this kind of, after all of these are supposed to report to Parliament anyway. So Parliament has the benefit of all those institutions with whatever they've garnered, which will then add value to opening up the information. But it will also allow for a president who is on the dock on this to be able to speak for himself and his lawyers. We would like to see this happen as speedily as possible. In fact, it would be so much better if all of it could happen next week.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your candid views. Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana is the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. So they've released a statement in which they welcome the report by the Section 89 committee, but also saying that it sets the way now for the parliamentary process to unfold and reach a conclusion on this matter.